everybody, and welcome to another edition of Proline as we hit the double-digit mark in weeks in the National Football League. The season rolling right along. It is Week 10. We've got some good games to look at today. The Broncos and Chargers meeting in San Diego, and we'll also look at the Sunday game between the Carolina Panthers and the San Francisco 49ers. Certainly, I think we'd have to qualify as the marquee matchup of the week. Before we get to any of that, let's tell you who's here. I'm Dave Cokin. Jim Feist is here. Mike Scalleat as well, who's one of the top Vegas handicappers. Great to have Mike on board. And before we do anything, let's get to you, Jim. We've got college hoops beginning on Friday with a huge schedule. I mean, it's just an enormous schedule of games. So a lot of work for us and a lot of winners for our customers. And you've got a huge weekend special going. Yeah, terrific question this week for our Twitter question of the week. And by the way, you want to make sure and follow us on Twitter at Jim Feist Sports, or friend us at Facebook at Proline TV. This came in from Phil Cantwell. It was in Nashville. And he says it was a week of bad NFL beats. Dolphins 22-20 with a safety in overtime. The Chargers blow a touchdown and then lose in overtime. Saints-Jets lands right on the number, on the total. The Texans blow the big lead. The Buffalo Bills thing with that 14-point turnaround and the 100-yard pick. Jim, what's the worst beat you've ever had?
Well, there are too many to really. It's hard, but you have a good game. There's so many times where you pick the right side and you don't win. You said that, but there are times too when you make a mistake and you pick the wrong side and you do get lucky.
Yep.
And that happens too. It just doesn't happen as often because most of the time, if you do your work, you're not going to be on the wrong side that much. It's kind of like I play a lot of poker, and so I'll suffer a lot more bad beats because most of the time when I get my money in, I have the best hand. So if I have the best hand, say 9 out of 10 times or 90 out of 100 times, it's really hard to put a bad beat on somebody else because I'm really in a position where I'm the favorite. So it happens in sports as well. Like last week, I had the Texans. I believe personally that if the coach didn't go down at halftime, I would have won that game. I had the over in the Miami-Cincinnati game. That's another situation where anything but the safety or a tie, I go over the 42 instead of tying it. So, I mean, these kind of things happen. That is part of the game, and that's why anybody that says they can hit 90% in these sports is crazy, and because it's not possible to overcome all of that stuff. And of course, then you have injuries, like anybody that bet on the Packers or the Packers over and lost Aaron Rodgers in the first quarter. They really never had a chance. That's at that point. I mean, they may not have covered anyway because McCown played a lot better than anybody gave credit for, but the game likely would have gone over with Aaron Rodgers in there. So let me turn this phone off. It's just making too much noise.
Yeah, I like the song, though.
So anyway, there's a lot of bad beats out there, especially if you're a good handicapper and you're on the right side. So that happens.
I'll give you just one that I was on last year. I think because I want recent memory ones tend to stay with you a little longer. The Belk Bowl, Cincinnati and Duke. Duke, I've got Duke plus the points. You can't lose the game. You can't lose. I mean, they're winning the game. They're getting 9. They've got the ball inside the Cincinnati 10-yard line with, 150 to go, something like that. And not only did they not win the game, they didn't cover either. They ended up losing by 10. It was an impossible loss, and it lost. I can give you the luckiest winner I ever had. I'll never forget this because it can't happen anymore. This was a college football game. It was USC-Arizona State years ago. I'm on the wrong side of the game. I laid about a touchdown. I don't remember the exact number, but I laid a touchdown with USC and goes to overtime. So I got the wrong side. This was before they changed the overtime rule. USC scores, and then Arizona State, they get the football, and there's a pick. Now that would be the game would be over now under the rules now, but back then it wasn't. And the guy ran it all the way back down for a touchdown. They didn't kick the extra point. So USC wins by 13, and I won my bet. If you're on the opposite side of that, that's all-time bad beat material. Mike, you got one that sticks out in your mind either way?
Yeah, Dave. In fact, I had that game you're just talking about with Jake Plummer. When I heard the score, he said, how'd they win by 13? I said, what the hell happened here? I couldn't believe it. I was in my car listening to KYW out of Philadelphia. But this year, early in the season, I had a bad beat with Houston. I mean, they're up 2 touchdowns with Seattle, and Matt Schaub, like 4 minutes to go, instead of like taking a sack or throwing a ball away, he throws a pick 6 to Sherman, and they end up losing the game in overtime. But like I said to Jim earlier, in all the years we've been doing this, you have so many bad beats, you just have to forget about them and move on, you know. But that Arizona State game, I remember it well, Dave.
Yeah, that is definitely my luckiest win of all time. All right, we got a couple of good games to look at. The Broncos taking on the Chargers. San Diego back home after a tough defeat at Washington. Game they should have won. I mean, they're in position to win it at the end. They don't get the touchdown, ended up in overtime, and lost the game at that point. That's a tough beat if you're the Chargers. They've had a few of those this year, but the San Diego Chargers guys have been I think a big surprise team. I think McCoy's been one of the shining lights as far as coaches goes. Rivers has had a terrific season, and I don't know that they're going to be a pushover for the Broncos in this game, but naturally Denver does deserve to be favored, considering how well they played, Mike. The Broncos just having a great season.
Yes, they are, Dave, and they're scoring a lot of points. You would think they've done very well against the total. I mean, it's 16-2 and 1 run over the total, 11-3 over the last 14 road games, and even in the 5 meetings with San Diego, the last 5, it's 4-1 to the over. But I'm leaning with San Diego here, plus the 7. They're 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 after a straight-up loss. They're 5-2-1 this year with the spread, where Denver's 4-4 ATS. So they got Mike McCoy as the coach, and he was with Denver last year as a coordinator. San Diego's been in every game, Dave. I'm going to lean with San Diego with the 7 points. For me,
I think the total here is worth looking at. We know what the Broncos offense does, and I don't think anybody's going to really slow down that attack. It's an incredible offense. Maybe when the weather gets cold or something like that, maybe it'll impact it in some way, but that's certainly not going to be a factor here with the game in San Diego. It figures to be good weather on Sunday, and so the Broncos are going to get their points. So are the Chargers. Phillip Rivers is having a great season, and he's going up against a defense you can score on the Broncos. I mean, Denver's got the great offense, but their defense is strictly average and can be handled. So, the total of the game's high. You're not getting any bargain on this, to be sure. Looking at it, I think right now we've got a total of 58. But the odds makers...
Yeah, I'm looking at one place, Dave, where it's 58.5.
Yeah, the odds makers aren't making it easy.
It's going up.
But I just can't see how this isn't going to be a 60-point game. It just looks to me like they're going to go up and down the field and could be very entertaining. So it's not a good value play because the number is so high and there's no room for error. I mean, you get a couple of turnovers at the wrong part of the field where they've eaten up 4 minutes of clock and getting no points out of it. Your over's dead. But you can't really handicap turnovers, and I'm going to go on the premise that there won't be many, and I'll take the game over the total, Tim.
I agree with both of you. San Diego show up. I mean, this is a division home dog. This is a huge game. It's a huge game for both teams. Now, next week, Denver, if you look ahead a little bit, they do have to play Kansas City, who's the only undefeated team in football. Now, there's a lot of people that are not giving Kansas City that much credit, so I'm not really sure how they're looking at that. And the reason I'm saying that, Kansas City, for some reason, have drawn the lucky straw this year. They keep playing only backup quarterbacks. So their defense has looked a little bit better than it would have if they were playing premium quarterbacks each and every week. However, this game is a big game, road favorite, open 7. I see a lot of 7.5s. I also see a 6.5, but I only see a 6.5 in 2 spots that are critical. I think, Mike, you're right. The value in the game is to take the 7 or 7.5 in the game. And as far as the total is concerned, when the game opened 56.5, I did bet it over. But now we're looking at this game going, 58, 58.5, I don't really see the public is going to be all over Denver, which they're betting, and the over. So the value players, the sharps, the guys that do this for a living are going to wait and buy this thing back. You may end up seeing 58.5 or 59, and I'm sure those guys are going to be putting some substantial money on the under. So I think the number is going to probably not end up finishing higher than it is right now. But the value, I thought, was getting it under 57. So that's why I went over 56.5. But right now, I don't think there's any value in it at all.
Let's move to the game now between two really hot football teams. So these teams aren't just winning right now. They're winning and covering, and that's impressive. Carolina, 4-0 straight up and against the spread their last 4. 49ers, 5-0 straight up and against the spread their last 5. This is men versus men, and these two teams are going to bang each other on Sunday. I'll kind of take the lead in this game. I think this is going to be an old-fashioned slobber knocker. These teams are going to get out there and really get after each other. I think you're going to get conservative game plans on both sides. You get two explosive quarterbacks in Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick, and they're both in good form. But I like the two defenses to be in control of this football game. The total, we just talked about a game, the total near 60. This one's old school all the way. The total's down in the low 40s, 42.5. And I think you're going to see a game where points are tough, very tough to come by. 17-14, 20-14, something like that. I think the 49ers are going to win the game, but I'm not convinced they're going to cover the spread. I think the better option here, Mike, is on the total, and I do think it's going to stay, it looks a little obvious, but I don't care. I think this game's an under, and that's the way I like it.
I agree with you, Dave. This is one of my plays on the site, so I won't say too much, but I agree with you. 42.5. Two teams who like to run the ball, two strong defenses. 42.5 is a big number. I think when you get over 40, 41 with some of these defensive teams, you gotta look for the under. And it's a big game for Carolina. I mean, they have New Orleans twice down the road, but they're only a game behind them right now. So, and the Niners, they gotta keep up with Seattle. So I think we're gonna see a good battle, and maybe you'll see a 17-14 game, 20-17. I think you're right.
Jim.
What do you think, Jim?
I was going to say, Jim, this does look like the type of game where I don't think either team's going to want to give it away either, which is another reason that I kind of went with the under.
This is a strange situation. You have an East Coast team traveling west. This is San Francisco's coming off a bye. They're very physical. After kind of a rough start, they've defined who they are. They've gone back to who they are. They're a running team with a little bit of passing mixed in there. Of course, they do get Crabtree back. That's a big addition. They get Manningham back as well. So they might be a little bit more explosive than you think, especially if their running game is clicking. The passing game can also click along with it. This is not a great spot, in my opinion, for Carolina. Even though the number looks good, they've been winning. They haven't been beating really great teams, however. And San Francisco's coming off a bye. They had time to rest, time to prepare for this game. East Coast to West Coast travel. This is a very bad spot for Carolina, even though they're playing well. I am not as convinced Carolina's deciding this game.
All right. Good stuff. By the way, the 49ers, you should mention, how good have they been at home? 18-7-1 against the spread in their last 26 home games. And going against what I like with the under, the over is 8-2 in the 49ers' last 10 home games, just to pass those stats along. Let's wrap it up with best bets from today's games, or any game you like. Mike, let's start with you.
My best bet, Dave's going to be San Diego plus the 7. That's my best play for this week. I like them at home, conference game, division game, getting points. Like I said, they're in every game. Yeah, I know the Denver's coming off a bye, but I think the Chargers and Rivers are going to be they're going to look to show something, and Mike McCoy would like nothing better than beat his old team. So Denver, they're like the Patriots. The lines are always inflated, a point, point and a half, and I think you got to take advantage of it in this situation.
Best bet of the show. I understand that the totals have been going over in the 49er home games, and certainly they can go up and down the field on each other and make me look bad on this one, but I think you're going to get a real crunch job here, a battle in the trenches where both teams are going to be looking to establish their physical superiority. I think this is a men versus men type of game, and I like the under between the Panthers and the 49ers. Jim, huge weekend for you. I know you've done a ton of college basketball preseason work, and you're ready to fire.
Well, college basketball has always been something that's been very special to me over the years, and I am working feverishly on my estimation of these teams and what they're going to come out with their game plans and styles and such. There's been a couple of officiating situations that you have to be on top of as well, which could change the dynamic of the sport. I love the word you used earlier, Dave, slobber knocker. I don't know where you got that. I love that. I got to figure out how to apply it to Mike. I'm going to go along with Mike with San Diego. I think this is a great spot for San Diego. I think they were going to be keyed for the game. This is a big AFC West Division game for them. I'm not so sure they won't win the game straight up. And I want to mention this: Mike and his brother Albert come from the same hometown I do back east, and many years ago we were back in the same neighborhood. Now we're out in Las Vegas, and his brother has a great restaurant that I think Mike should mention before we sign off. But my best bet's going to be San Diego right away. Mike, why don't you tell them about Dom DeMarco's?
Dom DeMarco's, thank you, Jim. It's located on West Charleston and Wallapai. It's best pizza in Las Vegas, great Italian cuisine. They've been there about almost 2 years now. My brother Albert's the manager there. They have fine food, as you can attest to. You've been there several times. And it's a pretty good spot up in the Summerlin area, and they're doing quite well at the moment, and thank you.
Secrets in the sauce.
Yeah, it's hard to get in the door. Every time I go there, there's a line getting in the door. It's great food.
You guys that are watching back east, you know what I'm talking about here. Good pizza is all about the sauce. Sauce is good there, so check it out. You'll like it.
It is.
All right, guys. That's Mike Scalleat and Jim Feist. I want to thank John Cranton, Jeff Side as well. I'm Dave Cokin. Don't forget to listen or check and watch, actually, on Proline TV, our college version of Proline, and lots of good stuff. And don't forget to check out the information that's available. It's exclusive information that you can't really find in other locations in terms of the way it's broken down as far as the LVH contest is going. It can really help you out as far as making some decisions on Sunday are concerned. So check that out. We'll talk to you guys next week. Adios.